You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hi, we're Enterprise Explaining, the podcast where we explain Star Trek Enterprise to each other and to you. I'm Bill, and these are my co-hosts Maria.
Hello!
And Jamie.
Hi.
Today we are going to be talking about the final episode of Season 1 of Enterprise, Shockwave, Part 1. However, I'm the only person here who has actually watched it, so it's my job to explain to my co-hosts what happened on the episode. But before we do, let's talk a little bit about last week's episode, because last week our special guest Jarrah told us about the episode 2 Days and 2 Nights. This is an episode about women who knock men unconscious and the reasons why they do it. So they knock out Phlox because he needs to go into hibernation. Archer gets knocked out because the female spy needs to escape, and Trip and Malcolm get knocked out because they're being robbed. I kind of wish that as Hoshi was lying in bed with her little man there, and just talking about all the great things that they were going to do that day, she just reached over and hypo-sprayed him in the neck and then put on her shoes and walked out. So this is an episode about men who get assaulted. Although I suppose Phlox was not technically assaulted. He was fully consenting to that.
Yeah, and Travis did not get knocked out. I mean, maybe he did when he fell off that cliff.
That is true. He did not get knocked out by the mountain.
But I do want to say that Travis, his arms, he was ripped. I could not.
Literally,
this is the first time we've seen his
guy
arms.
Looked good, man.
I've never seen his arms before.
I literally have that same note. It just says Travis is ripped. It's one of the few notes of my notes because I watched this right after we recorded, and I don't remember very much of what I was talking about here. But I did notice that it was directed by Michael Dorn, which is fun.
Yep. My other big question is, so this robbery, when Trip and Malcolm get robbed, this raises the question of how does Earth deal with civilizations that aren't post-money? So they presumably have to go down to Risa and like buy things and like pay for the hotel rooms and stuff. Do they just like give them? Do they just like synthesize money or gold coins or whatever to go down? But these aliens, the two aliens who robbed them, were clearly like they wanted their valuables. And the other thing was, everybody has been shitting their pants on this show about the Suliban because they can shape change, and apparently this is like this other race nobody cares about. Like, this other race can just change their physical appearance, and nobody thinks anything. Yeah. My final note is, I just want to give a tip of the hat to Phlox actor John Billingsley for his amazing manic performance as Phlox.
Oh yeah, great physical comedy in this
I thought
episode.
That was
very much so. I agree. The thing that like drove me the most crazy about this episode was, I mean, this episode could have been called No Homo. Like, they were so absolutely adamant to make it clear that these guys liked women, like females. And it was so annoying.
Yeah, and they had like a weird obsession with it too, where it was like they had to make sure, like, figure out the gender of every alien. And it's like, you're not even talking to these aliens. You're literally just looking at them. Like, what does it matter what their gender even is? But they had to like make sure that they didn't like accidentally say a male alien was hot or something. We don't even know if these aliens have gender the way that we have gender. Like, I just don't understand why they had such a weird obsession with it.
Yeah, it was really, really weird. I also believe that I have a confirmation now that they are attempting to make a running joke through the series of the Earth never heard of it, because that interaction has happened multiple times now.
Yeah, that is true.
multiple episodes. I have two notes that I do not fully understand. Well, one is the boys in their underpants was very funny. I actually fully enjoyed them like running around in their underpants. It did not
make sense that their clothes was stolen, because it's not, their clothes has no value. Like, sorry, that clothes has no value. Even in our world today, if you like used clothing is not very valuable. Like, you can get it for very cheap at like a consignment store.
But a military uniform
But they weren't in military uniforms. They
Oh,
were
you're
in
right. They were in their
clothes.
Okay, never mind so much for that.
Yeah, I mean, a military uniform would be a problem potentially.
That's right. That's true.
For security. But I just think that they wanted them to be in their underwear because it's funny, but I think they could have come up with something else.
It was just a dumb joke.
I think so. Yeah, I think it was just to get them in their underpants running around the casino or whatever that was. Phlox's mania when he wakes up, because he said, "Where is he?" and then lifted the blanket like it was in his pants. And I think it was when he was asking about the patient.
Mm.
It made me laugh at just that one little moment. Also, I was a big fan of all the B plots. Like, this was an episode where all the B plots from the entire series, this is where they were. And I was very happy for Hoshi. I was so happy that Hoshi had a good, positive, fun experience.
And she looked so good this episode. Like, her hair, she should wear her hair down more often.
Gorgeous.
Her outfits looked amazing. Like, she just looked amazing. Though I have to say, the scene with the strawberry and the kiwi was, I was howling.
I was dying.
When she's holding the strawberry and she's like, "We don't have anything like this back home. The closest we have is a strawberry." And I'm like, it is a strawberry.
It's literally a strawberry in your hand. Like, if she had said, "This looks like a strawberry, but it tastes nothing like the strawberry that I, you know, or whatever." But no.
I don't know why they just didn't like have a strawberry that they like painted blue or something.
I bet Chef Dorothy wasn't involved in this one.
Yeah. 100% that old couple was trying to pick up Hoshi.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Also, and I think Jera might have mentioned this, but I don't remember, how the hell did that dog get on his balcony?
I have
Did
no
it
idea.
levitate? Like, is it? I mean, do space dogs fly? What the
They
hell?
transported it.
They transported it. Jesus.
I mean, Archer should have known the second he saw the dog. He should have known something was up because that's an Earth dog. Sorry, like that's an Earth dog.
Archer is not listening to Porthos when Porthos is like, "This is dangerous."
Yeah. Please listen to Porthos is also the moral of this story. Listen to your dog. He knows better than you.
But in that same scene, when Archer invites her to dinner with him and she says she can't go, did I miss, like, why couldn't she go to dinner with him that first night?
I don't know. My assumption was she needed to go get
specifically there. She was there to infiltrate and
maybe she was slow
gain his
playing?
Trust. So I didn't understand. You'd think this would be a great opportunity. She can go to dinner, and he asked her, so it like there won't be suspicion on her. I did like that she was age appropriate though. Oh, and also I forgot, she is the woman from Pretty Woman, the saleswoman.
Really?
The snobby one.
Oh my God.
Who is rude to her until she
mistake.
comes back with money and a boyfriend. Like, that's her. And but I did not recognize her from that. I recognized her from a DS9 episode because I watched DS9 recent in the past year, because she was a lady that Odo fucked.
I knew I recognized her and I couldn't figure out why. One thing that I did make a note of was it's between Risa and Earth is 90 light years. So like, is that super far? Like, is that super far for them?
I don't know. It would definitely be too far to be able to see Earth with that telescope.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing.
Because like a telescope, you can't, from just like the type of telescope that you would have like on your on your lawn, you can't see. You can see it's a solar systems, but you can't see the planets in those other solar systems.
But it's a future telescope.
Maybe it's a future telescope, or B, maybe it's a
telescope.
Viewmaster thing, and he's just popped a slide in there so that you can pretend to be seeing Earth. That's Earth there, and over here is Mickey Mouse. This is me on vacation. This is me playing water polo and regionals.
I had two other notes. One is that I can see why this episode won an Emmy for hair, because there were some great hairdos in this episode. Every alien had really interesting hair. I thought they did a great job just in general with the alien design in this episode. And then my last comment was that I just hated the whole scene of Malcolm and Trip trying to pick up women. Here's the thing, like
that night in the Roxbury bullshit drove me.
That was
crazy.
100% a reference to Night at the Roxbury.
Yeah,
that was 100%.
Really
it was playing them up.
felt-
It was playing them up as idiots.
Okay,
So
I've
that
never
when their
seen
fall
Night at the
comes,
Roxbury.
it's Will Ferrell and
what's that?
Just that scene, the way they're commenting on other people's bodies, like I understand that like straight men in a bar trying to pick up women are talking like this, and I think that if the show didn't already have such like a weird broy like straight man culture, I don't think this one scene would have stood out so much for me. I'd be like, oh, whatever, like I see what they're doing. But it just, because of the way this show has been up to this point, it just leaning into that even more, it just made me feel icky. I just didn't like it.
I also think that like I have come to appreciate Trip much more with his general himbo energy, and I feel like Malcolm is so slimy he was corrupting Trip, and I was like, don't mess with my himbo, man.
Like, he brings out the worst in Trip every time they're together. Like when they have conversations together, like, it's never good.
You snatched him up and say, "Stay away from my sweet little Florida man."
That's right. We must
get a job.
him.
Get away from her.
Yeah, they're not really doing a great job. Like, Hoshi got it in the first part of this season, but Malcolm is really like, they're really hitting this poor guy hard.
He's so gross. Just don't like him.
It really sucks that Cutter, who famously wants to fuck an alien, did not get to go down to Risa. It's so sad for her.
Very much.
That's you just reminded me of a weird thing. It's like Archer's big thing is he wants to meet new aliens. Like he wants to go, and so they go to a planet that is full, like it's a pleasure planet where lots of aliens are. Well, what does he do? He's going to sit in his fucking room and read Theories on Logic by Serac.
And wasn't it just the last episode where they tried to go to Risa and couldn't? Wasn't he talking about,
episodes.
I'm so excited. Well, in the last one, he was talking about,
he said he was
I'm going to go
like,
rock
lay
climbing
on the beach.
And like he did.
Yeah, and
whatever.
Anyway.
And we never saw Porthos on the beach, and I'm angry. Really angry about that.
Me too.
We should have had more Porthos in that.
I don't understand why they couldn't have stayed for 4 days and 4 nights and had half of the crew in the first 2 nights and half the crew in the last 2 nights, and they could have swapped them so that Cutter could have fucked an alien.
Yeah, that's
all
kind
she
of,
wants.
That's kind of how you do shore leave, is that part of the crew goes out and then they come back and then the other part of the crew goes out.
It's so rude to have their first shore leave in 9 months and like a huge portion of the crew is not allowed to go.
And almost all of the bridge crew. That's going to raise. There's going to be a mutiny on that ship. That sucks. All right, I think we've well trod this field. All right, now that we got that out of the way, it's time to talk about this week's episode. But before we get to that, let's take a short break to hear from one of our sister podcasts on the ESO network.
Tune in to the DragonCon Report podcast, your ultimate destination for all things DragonCon.
Join us each month as we dive into our home away from home and cover the world of con fandom, cosplay, gaming, and more.
With guests each show, behind-the-scenes insights, tips and tricks, and the latest updates on this year's convention.
Whether you're a seasoned attendee or a first-time explorer,
the DragonCon Report is your passport to the ultimate geek experience.
Join us and let your inner dragon roar.
It's now time to talk about this week's episode. Computer, what episode will we be talking about this week?
Shockwave, Part 1. After apparently causing the obliteration of an alien colony, Enterprise is ordered to return to Earth until a surprise visitor offers Archer startling evidence about what really happened.
Now it's time for 2 truths and a lie. I'm going to tell my co-hosts 3 statements, one of which is a fib, and it's their job to suss out which one it is. Are we ready?
So ready.
Statement 1. We learned that Starfleet has established protocols.
Okay.
Statement 2. Malcolm accidentally commits mass murder.
Oh, for fuck's sake, Malcolm.
Statement 3. Archer gets really hung up on the possibility that time travel exists.
Okay.
Wait, he knows time travel exists.
Yeah.
He's known about it for the entire season.
Yeah.
Therefore, that one I believe is true.
Therefore, that one is true. Yeah. I'm like, that one's definitely true. Because it makes no sense.
These two truths and a lie has become like a game of like one of the Saw movies where it's like, well, clearly I have to cut my foot off to get out of the ground.
Well, it's just, I don't feel like you would make something like that up because usually when we make up things, there are things that make sense because that's how our brains work.
Sure.
I think number 2, I know that this keeps happening, but just like, Malcolm, I just don't, I'm just tired of this mass murder thing.
I'm hoping.
I don't want it.
This is the season finale, so I guess it's possible. The first one is
Even though
Starfleet
number
has
1 does sound
established
like a Bill lie.
Protocols. We learned that Starfleet has established protocols.
That does sound like a Bill lie. But
right.
I'm going to go with the Malcolm one just out of hope that they're going to have protocols and not commit mass murder.
All right, I'm going to go with number 1 with the protocols. Therefore, at least one of us will be right, Jamie, because we are sure the third is not. Now watch.
Okay. Cold open. Enterprise is headed towards a mining colony of an alien race, and Trip is shocked to learn that it has a matriarchal society. And in case no one knows what matriarchal means, they explain it means that the women make all the decisions. T'Pol points out.
Sorry. Wait, who doesn't know the word matriarchal? Also, like, are they like genuinely like so surprised?
He's not shocked about it. He just brings it like that's just how they introduce it in the story. And they're just like walking into the ready room. It's like, so it's really a matriarchal society?
So like it's so unusual because it's really not. It's not even all that unusual on Earth.
On Earth, yeah. I really hope it's not the planet that Riker went to that time that he like
Angel One?
mansplained to a bunch of women what sex discrimination was.
Oh my God, that fucking episode. All right, no, we can't. Let's move forward. Jesus Christ. I already hate everything about this. We are 2 sentences in, and I'm already furious.
T'Pol points out that the Pragan males have made great strides towards equal rights, and now make up almost 1/3 of the miners. I'm just kidding. She doesn't say that, but she does say that they have made great strides towards equal rights.
Oh my God, if they had said that, it would have made up for everything. If she had said that, I would have been all in.
Trip adds, still, probably be wise if we don't get too flirtatious.
Oh, gross, Trip.
Okay, that's what he's thinking. He's like, well, okay, to be fair, every other alien they've met is a man. Like, for the most part, unless it's somebody's mother or a love interest.
Right, and everyone who
is a man.
isn't.
Every alien is a man.
That's right, that's right.
So at least they're it's sort of like the last episode took all the B plots from the season and put them in the episode. This episode is taking all the female aliens from the rest of the season and putting them in this episode.
Archer points out that the colony started off 20 years ago with just 30 miners, and now there's over 3,000 on the planet, which sounds like they're going to be inbred as hell to me, but what do I know? Maybe they just got more people on there. Yeah. They built up the colony. They have schools, landscaped communities, and even a museum, even though women are in charge. He doesn't say that. Trip and Archer muse about if there will ever be human colonies this far out in the future. And Archer says, we're making history with every light year. And Trip finishes this sentence because apparently this is something Archer says a lot. And even T'Pol is like... They get a hail from the bridge. They now have permission to land, and more importantly, landing protocols. We cut to the shuttlecraft with Archer, T'Pol, and Trip Malcolm is piloting, and he is making very careful adjustments to the shuttle pod's configurations because, as Archer points out, it wouldn't be very polite to ignite their atmosphere. T'Pol makes a suggestion that since it's a matriarchal society, that perhaps she should ask, how do you think Archer is reacting to this comment of hers? Doesn't matter because... Well, it doesn't matter because suddenly the atmosphere above the colony bursts into flames, killing everyone on the planet and hurling the shuttle pod back into space.
What?
Hey, it's been a long road, which means it's time for Jamie's Diane Warren update of the week.
Wait, sorry, wait. Sorry, I was only like half paying attention and I missed. How did everybody on this planet die?
The atmosphere ignited and they killed everybody?
Yes, and the shuttle pod was hurled back into space.
It was something that the shuttle pod did?
We don't know yet. I don't think we know yet. But it seems like
we don't know why.
It sounds like that was a risk. Like they talked about that being a risk. They had to be very careful not to ignite the atmosphere.
Archer was mentioning that, and Malcolm was at the controls, paying very careful attention to them. I think they actually mentioned that they needed to do something to the plasma conduits, and it had to be done at like 50 kilometers, but he was going to do it at 75 just to be on the safe side. And then the atmosphere caught fire and killed everybody.
Everybody on the planet is dead.
We see a huge fire on the planet, and the shuttle pod is tossed away.
Oh, Jesus Christ. We should have known. We should have known we weren't going to see that many women. Like, we should have known. As soon as you said it's all women, we should have known they were all going to die immediately. All right.
So just picture this. There's a huge explosion. The shuttle pod is tossed away, and then we hear, "It's been a long road."
Oh, no.
And I did take a screenshot of your faces as I read that statement to you. So.
Good. I'm sure we can use that.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Sons of bitches.
So, you guys...
Oh, my God, these people.
You guys ready for the Diane Warren update of the week?
Oh, yes. That's right.
So, last week, I promised you guys I would tell you about a time when Diane Warren was in a feud with Beyonce.
Yes.
So imagine we're back in 2022. It's August 1st. The Grammys are 2 days away. And this is Beyonce's year at the Grammys. She just released Renaissance, and she got a whole bunch of nominations for that album or for songs on that album. And if she wins even just one, she will beat the record for the most Grammys ever won by a singer.
Oh, wow.
So this is like a pretty big deal. Mm. Diane Warren tweets, "How can there be 24 writers on a song?"
Oh.
And so she doesn't state outright who she's talking about, but it's pretty clear that she is referring to the Beyonce song Alien Superstar, which got a bunch of Grammy nominations and had 24 writers. And Diane Warren has worked with Beyonce in the past. Back in 2011, her and Beyonce wrote the song I Was Here Together. And Diane Warren is a veteran of the music industry, so she should understand how you end up with songs that have 24 writers. And it is not necessarily because I think what she's trying to imply is that it's like music by committee, which is how some pop music is written.
Sure.
But famously, that is not how Beyonce does things.
Sure.
Beyonce goes and collaborates, but her music isn't being written by a studio just moving a song back and forth. And because a song has 24 writers doesn't mean that there's 24 people who worked on that song.
One person handled the letter A, one person handled the letter B.
Yeah, what it means is that there were samples on the song. So anytime you use a sample from another song,
that makes sense.
You have to add all the writers from that song.
Right.
So a Daily Beast article written by Madeline Roth talking about that Beyonce song, Alien Superstar, said that the intro to the track sampled the 2008 song Moonraker, And
wow.
the outro is a spoken word portion from a 1973 speech called Black Theater by Barbara Ann Tier. And in the song itself, Beyonce interpolates Right Said Fred's I'm Too Sexy when she sings I'm Too Classy for This World, Forever I'm That Girl. And just those 3 samples alone add up to 7 credited writers.
Right.
So like this is how you end up with 24 writers on a song, something that Diane Warren really should know. But when people started pointing this out to her, she doubled down. At one point she said that that's 23 more writers than she needs for her songs.
Ooh, she's feeling sassy.
Which, like, sorry, Diane Warren has one song. Like, she came up with one really good song formula and has been remixing it for 30 years.
Yeah, she's just sampling herself, so she doesn't need to.
Basically. One person asked her how you've been in the game 80 years and you don't know how samples work.
Bad mistake.
She responded, "'Cause I don't use them," which I think does actually say a lot about how she ended up.
Well, that was sort of my assumption when you were talking about this. Like, I assume she just she doesn't sample other people's music. She just does her own thing.
So bring us up to date on the status of this. Of the temporal Cold War between Diane Warren and Beyonce.
So eventually, The Dream, who is a producer, he's kind of he's Beyonce's main producer on Renaissance, replied to her and explained to her like the history of hip hop and basically that like early on in like music in Black culture, they really couldn't afford the expense of creating music from scratch. Like that's expensive to like have instruments and all the equipment and everything. So they started remixing existing music to create something totally new from it, which ended up being an art form in itself. Right. And so he's basically saying like when you are like putting down like a song that has samples, you're basically shitting on like Black music, basically. Yep. Which is true.
Yep, that's true.
And I guess this is the thing that finally got through to her because she responded and said, "I didn't mean that as an attack or as disrespect. I didn't know this. Thank you for making me aware of it. No need to be mean about it." Which,
okay.
Sorry, it didn't really need that last sentence.
Yeah. Good job on her for like admitting it. But yeah, that last sentence, like, okay, calm down. Like, just.
Yeah. And then she did say, "I meant no disrespect to Beyonce, who I've worked with and admire. I'm sorry for the misunderstanding." Oh. And that was the end. Beyonce never said anything as usual.
Sure.
She stayed out of it. But that's why I was surprised last week when TMZ had a whole article of like, Diane Warren says Beyonce and Taylor Swift are both equally like the best artists or whatever.
Yeah. And they never mentioned it.
And I was like, it's weird that you would have that article and not have something about like, remember that time when Beyonce said this? Like, especially in like a gossip rag, you'd think you'd want it to be like, like you could definitely have like made it into more of a gossip story. I guess I should be running the tabloids, at least when it comes to Diane Warren. Anyways, it's fine. We can move on. Now you know the history.
We're in Medbay, and things are, as you might expect, tense. Malcolm insists that he had the plasma ducts closed. Archer asks if they're sure there's nothing left, and Hoshi says they've scanned it full magnification, and the Earth was scorched for 100 kilometers in every direction. Archer starts running through causes. Malcolm tells him that any errors in the shuttle pod would have sounded alarms. Trip is out with concussion from the shuttle pods bouncing around, I guess. Archer asks if Hoshi has tried hailing the colony, and Hoshi explains there's nothing left. No trees, no buildings, no people.
Oh my God. Holy shit.
Cut to the bridge.
Sorry, this is like the worst. And I'm guessing this is going to be like they were not responsible, but like this is, I still think somehow they were responsible. And this is definitely the worst thing that they've ever done of all the bad things that they've done.
Can I make my prediction based on your two truths and a lie? This is a time travel episode. They're going to try to go back and fix this problem because they're not. That's crazy. They destroyed an entire colony of thousands of people. How many people did you say were on there?
Yeah,
like 10,000 or something?
Mostly
They say 3,000, and I think they adjust it to 3,600.
I think it's time travel.
Cut to the bridge. T'Pol is analyzing sensor logs, and Archer asks Trip, who's A-OK now, there was apparently some kind of time jump, if there was tetrazine in the atmosphere in greater quantities than the Paragon specified. Tetrazine, we're going to learn, is the thing that they were worried about exploding in the atmosphere. The odd thing, Trip says, is that the tetrazine was actually lower than the Paragon said it would be. And the point of ignition, Trip points out, it was directly below the shuttle, right by the starboard plasma duct.
Uh-oh. Oh.
All of the sensor logs on the shuttle pod indicate that both ducts were closed, says T'Pol, and Archer tells her to start examining the logs, and she says, yeah, I'm doing that. And then he puts in a call to Admiral Forrest.
Oh, yeah, you better. Better call Dad.
He's like, the good news is there was no one around anymore who knew we were here.
We can just, I know, why don't they just like, we can just fuck off.
You're not going to believe this. We just showed up to this planet and
the shit just was gone. I don't know.
Why didn't you tell us that this planet had been destroyed? Why did you send us here?
Oh my God.
Idiot. Archer lays it out to the Admiral, who is gassed, and tells Archer to continue his analysis, while Forrest arranges an emergency meeting with the Command Council, who will probably want to bring the Vulcans in on this.
Of course they will. Hey, I have a question. Sorry. And I think you explained this, but so this was a mining colony from where?
They are called the Paragons.
And so, but we don't they have to tell them?
Well,
yeah, that would probably be smart.
Literally, my next statement is...
Okay, sorry.
They say that we have to contact the Paragons, and Archer volunteers to contact the Paragon homeworld. And Archer is, of course, feeling the weight of this message. Like, Scott Bakula is, like, he's angry and testy, but you can clearly tell that he is like, feeling the weight of this.
Like, we fucked up real bad. We fuck up a lot, but not this bad.
We fucked up a lot, but this is a whole new level of fuck-uppery.
Sorry, guys. I am a white man. I fuck up all the time, and it doesn't usually have consequences.
And Admiral Forrest, a #1 Enterprise fanboy, tells Archer, no, he followed all the protocols he was given. Archer is feeling the guilt, and Forrest tells him that the crew is going to be looking to him on how to react. Don't let them down. So we learned that they do have protocols on how to deal with situations where they kill entire planets. They don't have a chain of command.
For this, they have a protocol?
Apparently this has come up before, I guess.
First contact.
Yeah, they don't have first contact or prime directive. But if you blow up an entire civilization, that we know how to handle.
It's like that line from the movie Broken Arrow. It's like, it's a broken arrow. What does that mean? It means a nuclear weapon has been stolen. Wait, we have a term for that?
We even have a...
Oh.
You know what I kind of love/hate about Enterprise? With every other Star Trek show, it is like famously admirals suck. Like, anytime you're dealing with an admiral, they suck.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be like somehow against whatever you want to do, or like whatever our captain, whose opinion we trust more, wants to do. But in this show, it really does seem like Admiral Forrest is the only admiral we ever see, and Archer is like buddy with him, and it seems like he like protects Archer and backs him up often in situations where he should not be backing him up. Like, this isn't like, there are situations, I'm not necessarily talking about this, but there's definitely situations like when he wanted to return the ambassador to her planet to get killed. That's when the ambassador should be like, let's not do that. This seems bad. Like, we could end up at war with the Vulcans over this. Like, don't do it, Archer. But no, he's like, I don't know, like, buddy, like, whatever you want.
You do what you want to do. Yeah,
Forrest?
I agree. And I also think that actually in this case, so Forrest is telling him that it shouldn't be Archer who breaks the news to the people. It should be him.
This is the first time Forrest is hearing this information. It's like, oh God, I have to put this meeting together. The Vulcan's like, it's coming to him the first time, and it's like, now we have to contact the Paragons, and Archer's like, that should be my responsibility.
I think the Admiral should be there too.
I think that in general, like with a fuck up of this level, like you don't want the guy who fucked up to be the only person telling you this. You want his boss to be, you want to at least know his boss is around, you know? Like there's going to be consequences. Anyway,
yeah,
continue.
and hear the boss say like, yeah, we're investigating.
Yeah, this guy is getting fired or whatever.
Yeah, like
this does seem
we're going to hold people accountable.
We're very sorry. Here are some coupons for your next visit from Starfleet. Cut to Medbay. T'Pol is reporting to Phlox that Archer is acting erratically. His moods are swinging between agitation, despondency, and guilt. Even though this was an accident, his responses have been, say it with me, illogical.
I don't think it is, like, it's not illogical to, like, because we don't even necessarily know that it's it was an accident, but it could be an accident caused by negligence. Like, did they check everything?
Phlox?
This is just T'Pol not understanding emotions or
Phlox.
them trying to tell us that.
Phlox takes this in stride and says, to be Vulcan. Humans have difficulty separating despair from what Vulcans call responsibility. T'Pol says Phlox should monitor him closely to make sure that he remains fit for command. And Phlox is like, I understand how uncomfortable this is making you, but Archer's reactions would be more unnatural if it wasn't affecting him.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Phlox understands. That's awesome.
In his room, Archer is scrolling down records. I presume it's the colonists who were killed. It's just faces of people and an alien language. And sitting in his lap is Porthos, who is occasionally licking his chin in consolation.
Oh, sweet boy. What a good pup.
Porthos would never have murdered 3,000
They should have put Porthos in charge of the shuttlecraft.
That is generally my view on every episode. I dare you to give me a single episode of this entire season where it wouldn't have been better if Porthos was in charge.
An entire starcraft manned by beagles. How about that?
Oh, I'd love it.
Back on the bridge, Trip and Malcolm have detected borocarbons in the atmosphere, which further confirms that tetrazine was the culprit. Malcolm, who, as you might expect, is really feeling the pressure of this situation, says he doesn't care if the sensors detected bread pudding, because he's English. Both of those plasma ducts were locked down. Archer enters and summons T'Pol and Trip into his ready room. He's spoken to Forrest, and the mission has been canceled. Trip is shocked at this information.
Wait, the mission down
the mission to the planet? To meet with the mission, people who are all dead now?
Enterprise's mission. The whole thing. The whole shebang.
It's all done. Oh,
Enterprise is being ordered back to Earth. Trip is shocked by this. Ambassador Sovil is going to use this.
This doesn't seem that shocking to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty bad to have them continue to be going around once, like, word gets around that they killed all these people.
Trip is convinced that Ambassador Sovil is going to use this to convince Starfleet that they need to be held back for another 10 or 20 years before they try this mission again, and you cannot help but read this into the production history of Star Trek as a television series. Yeah, this isn't working. Maybe we need to take some time and reflect upon our actions.
I just feel like they're going to go back. They're just going to send out another ship with, like, a competent crew. And things will actually be better.
Maybe.
But what do I know?
Trip looks at T'Pol and says, "Tell him he's crazy." And T'Pol says, "Nothing." Archer says that a Vulcan ship is going to arrive in 3 days for T'Pol and Phlox, which will leave them without a doctor on their ship as they head back towards Earth. Nobody points this out, but it's just something that struck me. Maybe they don't need a science officer, but they should probably have a doctor.
Oh my god.
The Vulcans are like, if we take their doctor away, if we take away
maybe this
blocks.
Maybe this problem will solve itself.
Solve itself, exactly.
Trip is aghast that Archer is letting them get away with this, and Archer angrily dismisses both of them. He actually says, "You're dismissed, both of you."
Sorry, I'm just thinking back to the last episode, how they couldn't even manage without Phlox for 2 days.
Nope.
And 2 nights.
And 2 nights.
Enterprise warps off, and that's the end of the show. No, it's not.
Yay!
We cut to Travis and Hoshi, who are in the mess hall going over their resumes.
Oh shit, yeah, of course.
Travis asks if they've replaced Hoshi in Brazil yet, at her university. And she says, even if they have, they'll take me back. I'm a prodigy. A Star Trek prodigy, you might say, now streaming on Netflix. Hoshi asks, well, what about you? And Travis says, after a year on Enterprise, a cargo ship sounds pretty unappealing. But what if they made you the captain? You'd be the most famous boomer in space.
Also, why wouldn't he still be in Starfleet?
I think the implication is that they're going to cut this deep space program that they have. You know, it's like when they had
they're going to get cut out of. There's going to be consequences even in Starfleet for fucking up like this. So maybe
it's when they had the space shuttle disasters, NASA shut down.
I just feel like they wouldn't be like kicking the ensigns out of Starfleet for this. You're still in Starfleet. Presumably, there's other I'm not really sure what the deal is. I'm like confused about Hoshi's deal, since it seemed like she wasn't in Starfleet. She was like at a university.
Right. We don't.
But Travis presumably is like enlisted.
Oh, I mean, I do feel you know, they are the token people of color bridge crew. They're like, we are definitely definitely getting blamed for this in some way.
So Hoshi says you'll be the most famous boomer in space, and Travis says, well, maybe the most infamous. From what Commander Tucker tells me, people back home think that we're just doing nothing but out here getting in trouble. And I'm like, yeah, you are. That's my impression of you, asshole.
Accurate representation of what is happening.
I think they're just referring, maybe the first reviews are coming in and they're just like, Star Trek fandom thinks that these guys are just fucking around.
So good.
It's really hard not to read this as this final episode of the first season as a reaction to the reviews that they're getting.
So good.
Hoshi says, then it's our job to let people back home know what really happened. And if anyone tries to badmouth Captain Archer in front of me, they're going to get an earful in any language they want.
It's nice. It's nice that Hoshi is, like, loyal. Those two are... I like those two.
Yeah, but he doesn't deserve it.
No, he doesn't. Of course not. Absolutely he doesn't. But, you know, it's nice.
Even misplaced loyalty is loyalty.
Trying.
Back in Archer's room, Porthos looks on wistfully while Archer tosses his ball, his water polo ball. The door chimes. It's DePaul, and Archer asks, what's so important? He then apologizes for his brusque tone, and DePaul tells him they've detected a rogue EM signature on the hull of the shuttle pod, but Archer doesn't care. It's not enough. DePaul says, is this what humans refer to as feeling sorry for themselves? And Archer says, you're out of line, Sub-Commander. He's not feeling sorry for himself. He's feeling sorry for every member of Starfleet.
Okay, sir.
Their futures.
That's who you're feeling sorry for?
I need not the thousands
the families
of 3,000
of all the people who died?
Murdered?
Their futures depended on the success of this mission. And DePaul points out that of course the Vulcan High Command would take advantage of this situation, and his duty is to fight that recommendation. On this mission, he's made some questionable decisions, but also ones that were unquestionable. She's willing to try to convince her government. Is he willing to try to convince his? And Archer says, you know, this has got to be the first time a Vulcan has ever attempted to cheer up a human. It's kind of a cute moment between
that is
these
cute.
two.
Yeah,
I like that. I like T'Pol, like, again, I like T'Pol being loyal to Archer because Archer has
Right.
treated her well and has, well,
Eventually.
that's not sorry. Take that back. Archer has not treated her well, but Archer has stood up for her in the past, so she's trying to reciprocate. And I will
He's
give
treating
him
her
that.
better than the Vulcans. that we've
Right.
seen.
Also, I mean, at the end of the day, this also just might be, I really don't want to get married, people. You don't even know what an asshole my fiance is.
You have not seen the buildings he's built. We are back in Medbay. Phlox is packing up, and Trip is trying to help him, but almost gets bit by a critter.
Oh.
Phlox is sad to be leaving, but is also convinced that another adventure awaits him. Trip says he wishes he could be that optimistic, and Phlox points out there's always new surprises around the next nebula. And Trip says, but there won't be any more nebulas for Starfleet. Trip points out that Phlox has worked with the Vulcans and knows what they think of humans. Hell, they'll probably give Soval a medal and send him off to where old bitter Vulcans go to retire. Phlox points out Soval's many impressive career achievements, and Trip shouts that Phlox's ability to find something positive about everyone is one of the traits that drives me crazy. And Phlox says, I'll certainly miss your outspoken personality, Mr. Tucker.
I love Phlox.
Trip takes that in stride and leaves. Back in Archer's room, the captain tells Porthos it's time for bed.
We
He
get
gets
so
into-
much Porthos in this episode. I'm so happy.
But Archer climbs into bed, turns out the lights, and he is in his Star Trek regulation underpants, the tank top, and the tidy blueies,
The
I guess.
blue?
Yes.
Hold on to your hats. He turns out the lights. It's dark. He tells Porthos, come on, hop up. And he taps the bed. And he's like, no response. So he says, what's the matter, boy? He turns the lights on. He's not in his captain's room. He's in a Ramada Inn suite from the 1990s.
In his underwear?
No. He is shirtless and wearing pajama pants. He looks out the window, out onto an office building and flying cars. He's on Earth.
Called it.
Yeah, you did.
As Archer is confused, there's a call. It's from Tucker, telling him that all 3 inspection pods won't be done until the afternoon, so he might want to sleep in, finishes Archer. And then Archer wanders the room. He had the exact same call 10 months ago before they started the mission. If you're trying to tell me the last 10 months were a dream, I'm not buying it. Archer goes to the monitor and places a video call to some kind of information service where a woman answers, and let me remind you, Archer is still shirtless.
Nice.
He identifies himself and starts to give his authorization code, and the woman's like, yeah, I know who you are. You call all the time shirtless. She doesn't say that, but she's like, I know who you are, Captain Archer.
Sorry, one important question. So Porthos is not with him?
Porthos is in the hotel room. He's in
he
a
is in
little
the hotel.
doggy bed there.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Archer asks...
It'd just be great if the last 10 months really didn't happen, and now they get to redo it and
Why
do it
did I do all
better.
that crazy
They're like,
stuff?
You
That doesn't
really
make any sense.
fucking shit up.
What? Yeah.
What if you just tried again? You could have a do-over.
Why did we go
The
to that
whole 10
cocaine
months.
cave?
Let's not go. Write everything down that you shouldn't do. Send yourself a letter.
Archer asks her if there's a Nenobulan doctor in the interspecies medical exchange. Yes, there is one, a Dr. Phlox, at Starfleet Medical here in San Francisco. Archer thanks her and hangs up. But Archer didn't even know about Phlox before they brought Clang the Klingon in. And then we hear a voice. You're not dreaming, Captain. Archer turns around. It is Daniels.
Daniel.
Ooh, he's back.
He's back. Very nice. Very nice.
I remember I was so sad when he died, and then Maria's like, "I could come back."
He'll
and
come back.
Yeah, you were right. You're right.
Daniels apologizes. This must be very disorienting, but he had no choice. Archer's like, but you were killed. And Archer says, I was, in a manner of speaking. They need to talk, but it's essential that none of the other factions know about this, so he brought Archer back here because nobody would think to look for him here.
Wait, so this Daniels is not a past version of Daniels from before. This is a future version of that same Daniels?
He's annoyingly vague about the entire thing.
But he knows that Archer thinks he was dead, so so he has experienced whatever that last
so presumably it's
episode.
A future version of the same Daniels from before. Like he went through the other stuff with them.
Yeah.
Archer then embarks on an entirely pointless set of questions about where's the Archer from 10 months ago? And Daniels is like, it's fucking time travel. It doesn't goddamn matter. Don't think about it. Archer's like, okay, but aren't you supposed to protect the timeline and not screw with it? And he says,
just wave your hand and go timey-wimey. It's fine.
Archer really...
All Daniels has to do is say, you are here to put right what once went wrong.
Exactly. Archer cannot let go of this.
Sorry, now I know what that means.
Daniel says, it's already been screwed with, Captain. That explosion at the Paragon colony, it wasn't supposed to happen. And Archer says, of course not. It wasn't an accident. And Daniels is like, that's not what I mean. Someone violated the temporal accords. Someone who doesn't want your mission to succeed. Enterprise didn't cause the explosion. Daniel says, and I have a plan. And we cut back to the Enterprise. Archer calls an all-hands meeting. Malcolm comes in and hands Archer a tiny disc about the size of a quarter that he found on the shuttle pod. It was invisible. How did Archer know that a phase discriminator would expose it? This was the doodad that caused the plasma stream that exploded the atmosphere. Archer starts to lay down some technobabble on the crew. I'll need 2 quantum beacons. They'll have to be positon-based and have an output of 200 gigawatts apiece. And Tucker's like, positron-based, sir? Archer says, just get started. I'll bring you the specs in a few minutes. Archer tells Hoshi to put comms on the fritz and for Travis to turn the ship around. They're going back to the colony. We cut to engineering where Archer is showing off an elaborate diagram design of something he wants Trip to build. I'll get into the technobabble later, but there's a lot of technobabble in what Archer is describing here. And Trip says, with all due respect, sir, this is a level of quantum engineering that's beyond anything I ever learned of. How the hell do you know this? And Archer says, I got it from Daniels. And then Trip points out that Daniels exploded into a cloud of vapor. And Archer says, well, he had a lot to tell me. And Trip decides to roll with this.
You can always count on Trip, man. Trip's going to always roll with it with Archer.
Here's the problem. You know, in every other edition of Star Trek, when they face a seemingly impossible and insurmountable problem, the crew, being the best of the best, marshals their knowledge and skills and comes up with some crazy new way of thinking to solve the problem. Well, in Enterprise, a time wizard just gives them the answer.
I mean, to be fair, they didn't know it was time travel.
If Picard, if any captain had been facing this problem, if Janeway had exploded a planet, they would have, like, the whole episode would have been like, we got to figure this out. They would have dealt with the guilt, but it would have been like, it's anti-tachyon particles from planet Nebulon 16 that is just like, they would have like, and that would have been the thing. No, somebody just gives them the answer. They don't have to work for this. Back on the bridge, the tiny disk is another key. They're going to need it to access some Suliban data disks that they're going to steal. Archer tells Hoshi and T'Pol they need to find a way to access that data once they have it. Okay. Now we cut to a hallway. Malcolm and Archer are on the way to Daniel's room, which you may recall they sealed off.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep. To get some information. And Malcolm says, well, if it's really there, all that information could be invaluable to Starfleet, but Archer says no, he promised Daniels they would only take the schematic for the Suliban stealth cruiser.
Wait, I know that they sealed it off before, but they didn't search it?
Nope.
I thought that they did, I thought that they had, and that they said they didn't find anything.
Well, it's entirely possible, there's stuff in there. They're going to find some stuff, but they just decided we're going to put a plot barrier on this wall.
Okay.
So they unseal Daniel's room and find a device that looks like a mini hair dryer or a label maker. It's just basically this, circular thing. It starts projecting data of ships. Like Malcolm points out that there are illustrations of half a dozen Klingon cruisers, and Archer's like, "What did I just tell you?"
I don't blame Malcolm. I don't like Malcolm, but I don't blame Malcolm for that.
Right. It's like, maybe we should have investigated this before, sir? I don't know. Back on the bridge, Archer, man with the mission, gives them further directions in the armory. They now have the schematics for the ship that they're looking for, and Malcolm is pre-targeting the ship they're going to encounter. The probes that Trip has built are going on the grappler. Archer is in command. He is giving everyone's command, and this is all very, inspiring until you remember he's just doing what a time traveler told him to do.
Yeah, this is kind of boring because it's like nobody of our crew that we care about
is doing this.
Doing anything. They're just following some instructions that they got from someone else.
It's like playing a video game while reading the walkthrough. Oh, wow, you found this amazing hidden thing there? Yeah, because you fucking already knew it was there. First they go to the colony, and then Archer's like, okay, now look for a binary star system. It's like, well, okay. It's like, now go to the second star. Now look for this moon. It's like, why didn't you just go to the fucking moon in the first place?
Give me the list of all of the instructions first.
They go to where they need to go. They activate the beacons and close in on a cloaked vehicle. And Archer says, well, why aren't they firing? And Archer's like, well, they don't know that we can see them. They get closer and closer, and just as the ship is about to fire, Enterprise opens up, disabling their engines and weapons banks. Then they fire a photon torpedo, which seals off several decks. Archer, Trip, and T'Pol are on the shuttle pod heading down for a raiding party. They estimate that there should only be about 20 Suliban on board because the damage has sealed their decks. The raiding party gets on board, and they make with the boom boom. In a very funny scene, they throw open a door and throw in a stun grenade. Apparently Starfleet has stun grenades. And in the hallway, there were 3 Suliban who were lurking on the ceiling, and it's like, oh no, raid! And they immediately fall to the floor, completely knocked out. It's pew 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 time as the trio make their way down the corridors to some kind of room that they need to recover the data disks. More Suliban are on the way. Archer calls for fire, and Malcolm fires on the ship. Back at the shuttle pod. They make their way back to the shuttle pod. They get the data disks they need. They are escaping.
So they don't have evidence that it was these guys that caused the atmosphere explosion, but they're just attacking them anyway to get the evidence.
No, they
Daniels
do have
told them this what was happened.
Well, Daniels
so
told
their
them.
only evidence is
but they found the little
them.
disc. They found the little disc on the shuttle, the invisible disc.
Yeah, but how do they know
that it's Suliban technology? I mean,
yeah.
Also, they did track it back to that ship, so they know it was whoever's on the ship, even if it isn't Suliban.
This is not Law and Order. This is fucking Star Trek Enterprise.
Okay.
Chain of evidence is real important here.
They are trying to escape in the shuttle pod, but the Suliban have locked the docking clamp. Archer orders Trip to blast off. They tear away the docking clamp and eject Suliban into space, which I think we saw before.
Once again.
They get back to the Enterprise and make course for the Vulcan ship. After a commercial break, they've decoded the discs, and the stealth cruiser was shadowing them the entire time and was, in fact, in contact with the shuttle pod as they were landing or going to the planet, and put the disc on the shuttle pod. Everyone is so happy, including Admiral Forrest, who accepts all of this information from the ship that investigated the situation they themselves were accused of causing, but all's well that ends well, you know?
Do they know? Did that other ship, it sounds like they did not purposefully set the atmosphere on fire. It was
no,
just
they absolutely
because
did.
they did it on purpose. It wasn't that they were just following the Enterprise
No.
and didn't realize
They were
it.
framing. They were framing them.
You'll
Okay.
see they have screenshots from these data
Okay.
disks that they got. The ship was following the Enterprise, then following the shuttle pod. They put the disk on the shuttle pod, which is what caused the plasma exhaust that ignited the atmosphere. The Suliban
Okay.
are 100,000% guilty of doing this. Okay. Forrest asks Archer, "How did you find a cloaked ship?" And Archer's like, "I've got friends in high places, and the Starfleet Admiral lets this pass." Well, this is
Yeah,
going to be a
okay,
very
no.
interesting debriefing. He's so happy.
That's fair.
Yeah, like, sorry, this is still going to have to go through, like, a whole thing. And
Don't
I
worry about it.
assume the people
are still
would even be,
dead.
like, a trial of some sort.
Everybody is so happy that it wasn't their fault.
But
We
they're
are
still
back-
all dead.
Yeah, and somebody still needs to be held accountable, and you still need to, like, prove that it was them and prove how you
Well, the
determined
disc
it.
apparently
and
will do
make
that.
sure. Yeah, but there's
Chain
still,
of
like,
evidence
a
is a problem.
process to go through.
It's
Instead of just, like, taking his word for it.
frankly
sure.
adorable that you
But
think
that's
that
what the
anything
debrief
of
is
this
for.
is going to make sense.
Yeah, no fair. Continue.
Do you remember the Suliban Hive ship? We're back on one of those. Fuzzy Future Guy is talking to the main Suliban, whose name I've already forgotten, and he says, and the Suliban says, "Well, our ships are faster and more powerful. We can catch up and destroy the Enterprise." And Fuzzy Future Guy tells him not to destroy the Enterprise, but to bring Archer to him alone. Allow Enterprise to continue. We're back in Archer's room. T'Pol's there. Archer is still fucking hung up on the idea of time travel. "He brought me back 10 months. How do I know everything that I know now?" And it's like, that is not the issue here. And T'Pol once again points out that the Vulcan Science Directorate has concluded that time travel is not possible. And I'm like, we have been
Okay,
doing this
T'Pol.
for the entire season.
My girl, come on. This is a real micro singularities were made up by Vulcans situation. Like it's her getting back at him for that bullshit. Because...
Archer points out that he built an advanced probe to see through cloaks using quantum technology that he shouldn't have had. And Quantum Kenner's, "Yeah, and your solution is you got it information from a dead crew member." And all I'm thinking is, this is a conversation they would be having on lower decks. This is literally a lower decks conversation they would be having unironically.
Like, is T'Pol just straight up accusing him of lying?
Who knows? The larger problem is that we as an audience saw all of this happen. We know that it happened. Why are these two characters arguing
even
about the
having this
plausibility of
conversation?
it?
Also, sorry, like, T'Pol, she may not have seen that part, but, like, she's met a time traveler. Like, we have already proved this. I don't understand how she's still just like, I don't know.
Simply from a storytelling perspective, this does not need to exist. Like,
yeah, it's
Archer,
weird.
Archer being shocked that he traveled back in time 10 months. Okay, that's fine.
Sure.
We don't need to have an argument about time travel. It happened. We have proof that it happened. This scene goes on for far too long, but Archer does have the upper hand because T'Pol can't think of another logical answer. And if fucking Data was here, he'd point out Arthur Conan Doyle's axiom about once you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. But guess what? Data isn't fucking here.
Does temporal mechanics not exist yet? Because that's a whole field of study.
The whole plot of this season has been the temporal Cold War. Why are we arguing about time travel at this point?
Yeah.
Okay, Archer, however, explains that he needs T'Pol to believe that he traveled through time. And she's like, "Yeah, were there any sexy slugs there?" She doesn't say that, but he's thinking about it. He says he needs T'Pol to believe him because he's having a hard enough time dealing with this without his science officer, a colleague who I trust and rely on, the person who got me to stop feeling sorry for myself, accusing me of being a hallucinating madman. And T'Pol says, I don't remember accusing you of anything, she says, slowly backing away towards the door. She does not do that.
I don't want no trouble, man. T'Pol's Homer Simpsoning into the hedge at the moment.
Malcolm hails Archer. They're getting some strange readings. There's problems balancing the warp field. Trip can't explain what the problem might be. They activate the probes, and something is following them. A lot of somethings. They kind of look like wicker balls you get as cat toys, but apparently they're cloaked ships. They get a hail. It's the Suliban who tell Archer to head towards the airlock and get on their shuttle, or they'll destroy the ship. And the Enterprise is so massively outgunned, there's absolutely no way they could survive this battle. Archer decides to comply. He knows he has to leave. He places T'Pol in command and asks her to take care of Porthos. And before he gets on the turbo lift, his last words are, remember, no cheese.
Aww. That's so sweet.
Archer steps into the turbo lift and steps out into a burned-out building in a devastated landscape. Back on the bridge, the Suliban are pissed. The time has ran out. They gave them 5 minutes to comply. Did Archer think he was bluffing? They do a quick scan. Archer is not on the Enterprise. They tell him that Archer is not on the Enterprise. The Suliban don't believe him, and they start targeting the Enterprise for a massive attack.
Yeah, sorry, I assume that Daniels did this, but it seems like a like you'd think that you'd want to wait until Archer gets on the other ship, right, and then take him so that they don't do this.
Meanwhile, back on the hellscape, Archer explores the trash building. Daniels shows up and explains how lovely the view used to be 10 minutes ago. Archer's like, where am I? And Daniels explained, you're in the 31st century, Captain. I was instructed to bring you here. They told me that the timeline wouldn't be safe if you boarded that Suliban ship, and someone was very mistaken. Archer's like, wait, this just happened? This devastation just happened? And Daniels is like, no, it looks like it happened a long time ago. So Daniels is in some kind of time flux as well. Archer says, well, then send me back. I'll take my chances with Silic and the Suliban. And Daniels says, you don't understand. All our equipment, the time portals, have been destroyed. Everything's been destroyed. There's no way to send you back. Slow pull out through a destroyed window in a skyscraper, and to be continued.
Nice. Nice. I mean, I fucking hate time travel, but, you know.
I usually like sometimes. I think I like time travel when it's, like, well done. I just feel like this is not well done. I don't like it. I'm not happy about it.
My issue with time travel, I agree, when it's well done, but I only really think it's been well done a handful of times.
Right.
However, even in shows that I really like respect, I don't like, because it tends to just act as a giant reset button. And when there's a giant reset button, nothing you're watching has any meaning at all.
I just leave Archer in the future.
That would be so great. And I love him. I love his last sentiments to be for his dog.
Overall impressions of this episode. Lots of stuff happens in this episode. They do deal with the emotional weight of what happened on the colony. And to your point about time travel, I like the fact that they didn't just reset it.
Until they determined that they weren't at fault, and then they're like, oh yeah, and now
they
don't care anymore.
Literally, I have written until they find out it wasn't their fault, and then they promptly forget about it.
I honestly am surprised they didn't hit a giant reset button. That's actually why I said time travel at the beginning.
We still have a whole second episode.
They still could. Yeah, I suppose.
But it kind of feels like they're not going to, because it feels like they don't actually care now. Like what has been made clear is the reason they were all so upset was because they thought that they might have caused it. Like, it was guilt and fear over their own futures, and not actually like being upset over the people that were killed.
Well, I mean, I do understand that relief, though, right? If there's a large amount of relief,
definitely, especially if you have a lot of guilt, like finding out that it was like these other people did on purpose. Like there would be relief, but like it really feels like it's like, all right, guys, everything's fine.
And
like,
yeah,
no
that
big
relief
deal.
should transfer into fury that those poor people were used basically as a pawn, right? So yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know how that.
No, it was all a ruse to derail their totally awesome mission, which is fantastic and great. I have a prediction. This is not a spoiler. This is just speculation on my point. The fuzzy future guy is a Vulcan. It's either the Vulcan ambassador or it's some other Vulcan.
Oh,
Yeah, I feel like we've
interesting.
established that probably because in the pilot, the fuzzy future guy looked like a Vulcan.
Archer being given the entire solution to the problem feels like a real misstep. It's kind of like a reverse Q situation where, an omnipotent being has placed an insurmountable object before them.
Yeah.
Like Daniels is the rich dad bailing them out. This is a good cliffhanger.
I'm sorry, the
Enterprise is
rich dad bailing them out is absolutely in character with everything about the show, though, right? Like, that's completely normal.
Yep. The Enterprise is about to be destroyed and Archer is trapped in the future. I am genuinely curious to see how they get out of this. Okay. Two truths and a lie. Malcolm did not accidentally commit mass murder. It was 100% not his fault.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I won one.
I see how you are. I don't feel like Starfleet has established protocols. I think you were being sneaky there. They
No,
have
he
established
literally
protocols
says-
about one particular thing.
But mass murder still happened. It just wasn't because of Malcolm.
Malcolm did not accidentally commit mass murder, nor did he purposely commit
Thought
mass
he
murder.
committed. Right.
You got to watch those qualifier words. I always point out the qualifier
I
words
know.
whenever you two give me a two truths and a lie.
I know.
Porthos good boy scale. How good
so
of a
much
boy
Porthos.
was Porthos on this episode? He did appear in multiple scenes, but very briefly. He was a pretty good boy. He tried to comfort Archer while he was reviewing the dead colonists. It is unclear, however, if Porthos is the first dog to travel through time, or if it was just the Porthos who was in that hotel
Oh,
room
good question. No, it must
10
have
months
been.
ago.
Now that was 10 months ago, Porthos. Why would
Yeah.
Daniels have also transported Porthos?
Unclear. Well, we don't know. We have to wait for part 2 now, don't we?
Also, this Porthos was a different dog. That's what we
that's
learned
right.
from
It was a
Jera
different
last week.
dog.
Was that last week's episode was the last episode with the original Porthos, and this is a new Porthos, and they had to like paint a spot on him or something.
Her.
Her.
Also-
Both
Yeah, sorry,
Porthoses
her.
were hers because
Right. Also, you know that Porthos is 100% going to give T'Pol shit because she won't feed him when he wants to be fed or walk him at the right time like he's used to. It's like when I have to walk my friend's dogs and I love them, but it's just...
She is going to stick to her responsibilities. T'Pol is the type of person that like if the dog gets fed at 7 p.m., the dog is getting fed at 7 p.m.
agreed. I don't think this will happen, but I really hope the second part has a scene of like T'Pol trying to get the dog to poop or something. Like I would really, really like that.
She's throwing the ball at the optimal trajectory and Porthos refuses to chase it.
Exactly. Just something.
Oh my god, I'm
Also,
really hoping in the premiere that we get.
Would you that you know
Porthos
what
and T'Pol.
I feel like there should be, because why would he give it to T'Pol and not Trip?
Yeah, well, because Trip would definitely forget.
Oh yeah, Trip would definitely
And
kill
then
that dog.
Porthos
You're
would-
right.
No,
Because-
no.
I think so. Malcolm would
I
forget.
will not
Not
stand up
really-
for this slander.
I just think, T'Pol as the most responsible person is the person that I would get to pet sit.
No, Trip
Fair.
would take care of him, but then when Archer comes back from the future, Porthos is like 15 pounds overweight, and it's just
That makes sense to me. He would not follow the no cheese rule.
he's giving him like mashed potatoes and prime rib off of his plate.
Like I am the type of person though who my actual cat sitter was a former congressional candidate who ran for U.S. Congress and was the mayor of a small town. So only the highest standards for my pets when I'm not around.
There's the very short Treks series I want to see is T'Pol and Porthos. Solving crimes.
I would love that.
Saucy section. How sexy was this episode on a scale from H. John Benjamin as Edward Larkin in his underwear to Devon Attendee in a shower towel? For those of you who want to see Archer in his undies and then immediately cut to him shirtless in pajama pants, you are in for a treat.
Great.
The woman who answers this video calls and is like, yeah, I know who you are, Captain Archer, is also a delight.
I love that. I love that.
But again, where is HR? Like, because if I called my boss on a video call and he answered with his shirt off,
Yeah, that would be a problem.
Somebody pointed
don't
out.
turn the video on if you don't have your shirt on.
No, they
Just
cannot.
do
There's,
audio only.
there is no way to not turn a video on. Someone pointed out in the movie Aliens, where Ripley finally decides to go on the mission. She calls up Paul Reiser's character, and it's in the middle of the night, but he's shirtless. It's like, he knew who was calling him. He could have pulled his shirt on.
Shirt on. It's not that hard.
It's a thirsty move. Anyway, so that's for all you Captain Archer fans out there. Never asked, never answered. Something in this episode that made no sense and was never explained. Why are they so hung up on time travel existing? Not only have they experienced many times, it is the overarching plot of this entire season. Technical difficulties, the most technobabble thing from this episode. Lots of technobabble as Archer explains how to build the space probe. Here is a sample. He says to Trip, take a look at the dispersal curve here and here. You'll have to isolate the subassembly tolerances from the emitter algorithms. And Archer Trip's like, I don't know how to do that. And he's like, well, not if you generate a stable flux between the positron conductors. Then all you have to do is renormalize the tertiary wave functions. And Trip is like, sir, this is an Arby's.
I have a lot of respect for the people who write Star Trek technobabble, though. Like, it's impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I couldn't do that.
That's one of my favorite moments from the finale of Next Generation is Picard's in his vineyard and Geordi shows up and he's just spouting technobabble. He's, we got problems with the reverse phase of it or some other nonsense. What the Phlox? Creepiest thing Phlox said this episode. Phlox was not creepy at all in this episode. In fact, he tried to cheer Trip up with his "Tomorrow is another day" speech.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fox has really grown on me this season.
Yeah, you don't want
Chef,
that. There's meds for that.
Check that growth. Yeah. Yes, Chef. Any mentions of Chef? No, there are no mentions of Chef in this episode. And now it's time for Will's Holorex. This is a segment of the show where we give our Rikermendations for non-Enterprise related content we've been consuming in our own personal holodecks this week. Who wants to go first?
I'll go. My recommendation is a show called I'm a Virgo. I believe it is on Amazon Prime. It is Boots Riley comedy, and it is so, as you would expect from Boots Riley, so weird, so smart, and so well done. And I'm just going to read you a small portion of the IMDb thing, which is I'm a Virgo is a coming of age story about a 13-foot tall man who escapes to experience the beauty and contradictions of the real world. So it is literally about a giant black man living in LA who is in hiding to begin with and then starts to come out into the world.
Great show.
That sounds great.
So good. So good, you guys.
Also features Walton Goggins as the villain.
Yes.
And
Right.
fucking guy.
Right.
Walton Goggins.
I can't believe I didn't mention Walton Goggins. He's so good in this, as always. So fucking good.
Playing, oh God, I love fucking, there's no one better at playing a villain than Walton Goggins.
Yeah. He's really, really good. So
Okay, I've got to watch this.
yeah,
This
you'll
sounds great.
love it, Jamie. You'll love it. This show is so good and has one of the best succinct descriptions of the fundamental problems of the capitalist society that I have ever seen in my life. Like, it's so well done. It's just beautifully done. Anyway, and very funny and weird.
Jamie, what's your recommendation for this episode?
I have two recommendations for because I'm watching two animes right now. Mm-hmm. And the first one is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Sure.
Which I know is quite popular. My spouse had already seen it and had been for a while trying to get me to watch it. So we finally started watching it. It's about two brothers in a kind of dystopian, like, country, like, run by under military rule. They're alchemists, so they can, like, do I don't really know. I don't know what's going on. It's just like magic or whatever. Sure. So it's
don't
science magic.
I don't know what's going on.
They tried to do something that they shouldn't have. They tried to bring their mother back to life. And because of it, one of them lost a leg and an arm, and the other one lost his entire body and now has his soul. His soul is now just in a suit of armor. And these two young brothers who are teenagers are, like, trying to get his body back. It's very good, but it's also very dark, which is why I needed something else to watch on my own as sort of a chaser. So I've been watching Frieren, A Journey's End.
Best show.
This show is sort of the, like, atmospheric opposite of Full Alchemist Brotherhood. It is just lovely and calm. Very little happens in it. It's just this elf who is she lives in, like, the world is like a very, like, D&D type world, and she's very, very, very long-lived, which means she has outlived almost all of her friends from an adventure that she went on, like, 70 years earlier. And now she's retracing the steps of that prior adventure with a new adventuring party and sort of coming to terms with her past and, like, running into things that remind her of things that happened in her past, and, like, just thinking of a lot of her memories and how they relate to things currently happening. But like I said, very little actually happens, and that's what's so lovely about it. There's an entire episode where they're just at a beach and their job is to clean up the beach, and it takes them 3 months. And in the episode, they're just spending 3 months in this little town cleaning up the beach because the people in the town asked them to, because they wanted it to be clean for a festival where they could watch the sunrise, and it will be, like, more beautiful if the beach is clean. So they clean up the beach, and then at the end of the episode, they get to watch the sunrise, and it's beautiful over the cleaned up beach. So it really is lovely. It's just lovely. It's a very, very cozy anime. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, not a cozy show. But if you decide to watch that show and you need a cozy chaser, Frieren, A Journey's End.
All right.
My recommendation for this week, hey, if you're listening to this and you're watching Enterprise, if you want a series about a bunch of fuck-ups who get in way over their heads but manage to pull out of a victory, I recommend Slow Horses, both the TV show and the books. You can watch the TV show on Apple Plus. I've been listening to the audiobooks. Slow Horses is about the British Secret Service. It is a place where spies who have fucked up so badly are sent there to make them quit. It's spy purgatory for people who have really messed up, and their boss is just basically there to torture them and make their lives seem pointless and boring. But wouldn't you know it, this ragtag band of misfits keeps getting involved in world-altering plots, and they manage to pull out a victory. If you watch the TV show, it features Gary Oldman as Jackson Lamb, essentially the opposite of George Smiley, who is just the worst boss in the world. He is torturing these people, trying to get them to quit. But if they are in actual danger, he will not betray them. They're actually kind of an amazing series. So, Slow Horses, TV show, and books.
Awesome.
I've heard very good things about that show.
Yeah, me too.
But until right now, did not know what it was about, and I would not have guessed what you said.
I knew it was about that. Several people have told me to watch it, so it's on the list for sure.
Yeah.
And that's the episode. Thank you for listening. Next episode is our season 1 wrap-up, and that's got to be crazy because clearly this is going to be our final episode. This show didn't continue past this point, right? I mean, this is...
renewed.
I would just like to take a moment, and we'll do this next episode too, to just realize, let's just sit with the fact that we have watched an entire season of this show and made an entire season of this podcast. This is not what I was expecting.
Guys, we are 18 days away from, at the time we are recording this, from the day that I turned to Maria and was like, what if we do a podcast about Enterprise?
Yep, that is correct.
Genuinely
it's
did
weird.
not think we were going to make it past even 3 episodes.
Me too.
This is kind of like when I did my first 5K and I basically walked the last 1K and I was like,
sure,
I made it!
Did it? It's done. We managed. Hey, if you cross the finish line, you still did the 5K.
I genuinely was like, we're going to put stuff together. We're going to start doing it. And then it's not going to be funny. It's going to feel like a slog to do. No one's going to listen to it. We're going to have like 3 friends that are listening to it just because they feel bad for us.
Exactly. And there are those 3 friends.
We're gonna
Thank
give
you
up
so
after a
much.
couple
But there are a
episodes.
few more. It's great.
You lunatics.
Like, genuinely did not believe we were going... Like, I know in those first couple episodes we made jokes about, like, oh, we're not going to make it that far. We're not going to do that.
Here we are.
And I don't know if people realize, like, we were serious when we were saying that. We genuinely didn't think we were going to make it this far. I remember at one point, one of you said something about, like, when we get to the end of the first season, and I was like laughing because I'm like, we're not going to get to the end of the first season. Like, what are you talking about?
Yep. And here we are.
It's not going to last that long.
I think what you're saying. I think what you're saying, Jamie, is it's been a long road.
No.
I think we're there to here.
I think we are done here, sir.
Special thanks to K.O. Myers at Particulate Media for sound assistance, to our friend David for our beautiful cover art, and to John Stephen King for being the voice of our computer. If you liked this show, thank you. Thank you so much. And I just want to say, honestly, please rate, review, and subscribe on your podcast app of choice. And honestly, just go whatever, if you use Apple Podcasts, if you use Spotify, whatever, just go and give us a review, preferably 5 stars, but whatever you feel is appropriate. But just take 10 seconds and review this. We would appreciate it. Tell your friends about it. If you think that they would like this, you cannot believe how insane this podcast is. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook as Enterprise Splaining, and on Blue Sky as @EnterpriseSplain. You can also email us any comments and questions. I'm not even going to make a joke about what questions you have, because we do get emails and they're so delightful to get. You can email us as enterprisesplaining@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And I'm going to put a challenge out there to someone. We have never had someone donate anything to us on Buy Me a Coffee, and I had to convince Jamie and Maria to do this. Just one person, just do this. If you have $3, if you go through your pocket change and you have $3, it will make me so happy. I will not stop talking about it. You can find us on Buy Me a Coffee as Enterprise Planning. We will see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Bye.
Computer and program.
before anybody goes, Bill, the last episode that we released that you hosted, you did not say Will's Holorex. You just like went straight into recommendations. And Eric was like, why do you guys not call it Will's Holorex anymore? Why do you just call it And I'm like, no, we call it Will's. And he's like, no, this one you didn't. And I'm like, okay, one time we forgot to mention.
Is your
Will's
husband going to hit
Holorex.
me the next time I see him?
Both of our
And I was
husbands
like, how
are
did you even
weirdly
notice?
opinionated about this fucking show that we do. Stephen will when he finally listens to the episode, Stephen will like that day he'll be because he listens while he's at work, and that day he will come down here like 3 times and be like, "They said this, and I disagreed." I'm like, "Okay," or like.
Nice.
Why didn't she say that? I'm like, give it a minute. I will. I'll say it later.
That makes me so incredibly happy. I can't. I'm going to start calling it Blizz Blalo Blex.
Yeah, Eric he goes for a walk and listens, and then he comes back and tells me all of his opinions. But I have to say, he goes for our episodes, he goes for extra long walks when our episodes come out so that he can listen to the whole thing. Because usually his walks are shorter than that. Yeah, this is why I was like every, like if something is like a cut or a cough, like he notices and then has to come tell me. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to do about it?
Can't fix this.
Do you want to edit? Would you like to edit our episodes?
Oh, we would love that.
Love for you
Please.
to. I've asked him, and he was like, no.
Yeah, of course not. Nobody wants that.
Welcome to the stinger at the end of this episode.
Yeah,
See what they have to say about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I forgot we were still recording.
Okay. All right, but we haven't done our recommendation.
Yeah, sorry, we're on recommendation.
Here's my recommendation. Shut the fuck up. Just kidding.
I got your recommendation
I love you.
right here.
I love you both.
Sorry, no, that is the stinger.
Oh my god, it's so good.
That is absolutely not going to be the stinger.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.